ouvre les portes. Order. Alors, statements by members, déclaration de député, l'honorable député de Pierre Boucher.
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher. Mr. Speaker, for months now, we've been trying to raise the government's awareness about tax unfairness. And there's an $800,000 tax break for capital gains, and you can't really benefit from that when you sell your company to a family member, and that's very unfair towards family businesses. So we're starting from scratch. We sent a letter to the finance minister. We asked a number of questions in the House, but the government remains silent. And so we've had to turn to the media and the Federation of Quebec Chambers of Commerce. Yesterday, the second opposition party filed a bill on the same topic, and I'm delighted about this. Let's put aside partisanship and work together on this important matter.
Mr. Speaker, it is my privilege today to recognize an evolving industry in my community of London North Centre. The tech sector has emerged over the past several years as a significant contributor to the local economy. Currently, over 300 tech firms operate in London. World-class companies such as Dipley, Big Blue Bubble, Race Roster, Ellipsis Digital, and Big Viking Games are doing innovative and creative work in the Forest City and are global leaders in their field. There is also Voices.com, the world's #1 voice-over marketplace. Every day, Voices.com connects companies with voice-over talent from around the world. Recently, I had the pleasure of meeting the Chief Brand Officer, Stephanie Cicerelli, and her enthusiastic team. The company has surpassed the 100-employee mark recently, Mr. Speaker, and this number will rise to 200 in just a few short months. Innovation and technology are thriving in London, and I'm excited for this continued growth, which will result in well-paying jobs in a creative and dynamic industry. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
For Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, the vast majority of Canadians have in some way been affected by cancer, and that is why I rise today to highlight that May is Bladder Cancer Awareness Month. Bladder cancer is the 5th most common cancer in Canada, and there are roughly 8,300 Canadians who are diagnosed with this potentially deadly disease each year. Due to the extremely high recurrence rate on a per patient basis, bladder cancer is noted as the most expensive cancer to treat. It is essential to know that there are treatments to slow the spread and perhaps even stop the spread of this kind of cancer. However, like most forms of cancer, early detection is key. For those suffering, Bladder Cancer Canada is there for you. They provide various patient educational services, support groups, and allow you to connect with others who are in a similar situation. I encourage all Canadians to become aware of the symptoms and risks of bladder cancer and consult a medical expert should you exhibit such symptoms. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And a member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have heard time and again that Toronto, Canada, is the Hollywood of the North. Well, I'd like to bring a little bit more focus to this discussion. Mr. Speaker, Etobicoke Lakeshore is a major hub of the Canadian television and film industry. We are home to TV series Mayday by well-known film director Tim Walkichuk. Mr. Walkichuk is also the director of the Canadian film Storming Juno and recently the highly acclaimed We Were Children, which chronicles the residential school crisis. It's a movie all Canadians should watch. It is also home to William F. White, the leading provider of professional production equipment in Canada. Lakeshore Cineface Film Studio is the largest film studio campus in Canada. Recently, Etobicoke Lakeshore hosted Lakeshores, an internationally acclaimed short film festival celebrating their 6th year. Mr. Speaker, the Hollywood North designation may be changing. I heard a rumor that the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles is coming down, and there's one going up saying Etobicoke Lakeshore South.
Member for Vancouver East.
The Maru tragedy is a reflection of the discriminatory exclusion laws that existed in Canada. Nearly 400 passengers were refused entry in Canada. They were sent back to India, and 20 were killed. The NDP has long advocated that a respectful apology made in the House of Commons for this dark chapter of our history. On February the 3rd, I carry on the hard work of former MPs Jasper Sendu and Ginny Sims and table my motion to call for action. Let's all acknowledge the hard work of the Professor Mohan Singh Memorial Foundation for initiating the call for justice in 2012 and for not losing sight of the now Prime Minister's commitment that he would make the apology within the first 90 days of his mandate. While today is not exactly 90 days of the Liberal government's mandate, but hey, better late than never. After all, we have already waited 102 years. Thank you to everyone for your unwavering hard work and dedication. Thank you to the government for honoring this significant commitment.
Member for Ville-Marie, le Sud-Ouest Île des Sœurs. Mr. Speaker, today a number of my colleagues and I are fasting for one day in solidarity with the millions of Canadians who every day go without enough food to eat. In fact, 13% of Canadians live in a state of food insecurity. To make up for this lack created by our society, almost 1 million Canadians, a third of them kids, resort to food banks every month, a 23% increase since 2008.
Who visit food banks come from all backgrounds. They are families with children, the working poor, and Canadians living on fixed incomes, such as seniors and the disabled. In my riding alone, more than 24 food banks serve Montreal's needy, including Share the Warmth, Mission du Grand Berger, Accueil Bonneau, St. Columba House, and Gurudwara Sahib, where every hungry person is welcome, regardless of faith. Mr. Speaker, I'm hungry, but unlike far too many Canadians, I have the luxury of knowing that my hunger is only temporary.
The Honourable Member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, many residents will eventually return to Fort McMurray, only to find that they've lost everything to the ravages of a devastating wildfire. We can only imagine what they must be going through as their lives have been turned completely upside down. But through all the devastation, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the local churches, and many other charitable groups have been there to help. I often wonder, where would we be without organizations like these? In Parliament recently, I introduced the Fairness and Charitable Gifts Act, Bill C-239, which seeks to strengthen the charitable sector by increasing incentives for charitable giving. With this bill, donors to registered charities would receive the same generous federal tax credits that donors to political charities receive. Bill C-239 would make it more affordable for Canadians to donate to charitable causes, and in turn, charities across Canada would benefit greatly as more dollars would be freed up for donations. Mr. Speaker, let's continue to support the charities as they continue to support those in need.
Honourable Member for Glengarry Prescott Russell.
Mr. Speaker, hard-working farmers could not grow and provide quality agricultural products without the right tools. Fertilizer Canada and its member companies do an excellent job of providing them with the right expertise and fertilizer. McEwen Agri Centre and the Embrun Co-op help many farmers in my riding. McEwen Agri Centre is a national leader in the implementation of the 4R nutrient stewardship strategy, which increases yields and profitability for farmers while reducing emissions of greenhouse gases and decreasing nutrient loss into waterways. The Canadian fertilizer industry contributes $12 billion to the Canadian economy and employs 12,000 people. Last year, 46% of the world's potash came from Canada. Over the next 30 years, the world will need to increase food production by 70%. I look forward to working with farmers and Fertilizer Canada to make sure Canada seizes this exporting opportunity. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Toronto Danforth.
Mr. Speaker, today my team and I are fasting for Hunger on the Hill. This initiative, led by Food Banks Canada, asks you to go without food for a day. We are fasting for one day to try and draw awareness to the fact that countless Canadians and their children go hungry every day. Tonight, I know I will eat dinner, but for many people who live in our communities, that is not an option. Plus de 800,000 personnes.
Over 800,000 people every month rely on food banks to fill their plate. 1/3 of them are children or young people. There are over 500 food banks in Canada. We can and should do better. We have to guarantee the food security of all Canadians. With measures like the Canada Child Benefit and the Enhanced Guaranteed Income Supplement, we can offset food insecurity and help people get the healthy and nutritious food they need. Thank you.
For Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, I stand today to raise awareness of the plight of Afghani Sikhs in light of Prime Minister's apology for the Kamagata Maru. It was only a few decades ago that over 200,000 Sikhs lived in Afghanistan. Tragically, that number has dwindled to less than 2,000. And why, Mr. Speaker? Because they are continually encountered social discrimination and physical intimidation. Fleeing Sikhs now remain stuck in the surrounding countries. An additional secretary from Shromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee visited me to plead for Canada's assistance. This Liberal government has expressed an attitude of indifference towards the plight of Afghani Sikhs. But, Mr. Speaker, I will always stand up for Afghani Sikhs and those persecuted around the world. Thank you.
The honourable member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, 7 years ago today, the 26-year-old war in Sri Lanka ended with over 100,000 innocent lives lost and 300,000 people internally displaced. There are grave allegations of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide against the Tamil people. These victims demand justice. The path to peace in Sri Lanka cannot be achieved without accountability, and accountability cannot be achieved without victims having confidence in an impartial, independent, and internationally supported system devoid of political influence and entrenched in the rule of law. The Sri Lankan state has demonstrated its unwillingness to live up to its commitments to the international community. Canada must therefore submit the matter to the United Nations Security Council for referral to the International Criminal Court. For generations, Canadians have stood up for human rights on the world stage. This is a clear opportunity for Canada to lead the way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, Guelph has a great honour and privilege to host the Ontario Special Olympics. Next weekend, athletes and spectators from across the province will gather in Guelph in a spirit of sportsmanship, inclusion, and friendship. I wish to personally extend my congratulations and sincere admiration to all the athletes participating. Your dedication and perseverance is unmatched. We must all remember that no matter who wins, we all share common goals: to promote physical fitness, demonstrate courage and fairness, experience joy, and build friendships with other Special Olympic athletes, their friends and family, and the community. To all the athletes and their families and friends, welcome to Guelph, do your best, and know we're all cheering for you.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to be an Albertan and a Canadian. In my riding, I have seen children setting up lemonade stands at the end of their driveways, young Canadians organizing car washes, and organizations putting on barbecues, all in support of Fort McMurray. In addition, just today, the City of Edmonton Fire Service sent their 5th deployment of men and women to fight the fires that are still raging on. The Edmonton Evacuation Centre at Northlands has become a resource where those from Fort McMurray can find refuge during one of the worst natural disasters in Alberta's history. My city, Edmonton, has opened our doors to these families, and in Edmonton's generous spirit that is giving Fort McMurray and Alberta hope. Rebuilding Fort McMurray is going to take leadership, hard work, and patience, but I know Edmontonians will continue to be a part of this process. Mr. Speaker, let us stand together in this House and commit to ensuring that Fort McMurray will not be forgotten.
The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Government of Canada is marking Gender-Based Analysis Awareness Week with a theme of embracing diversity and delivering results. By encouraging implementation of gender-based analysis, or GBA, across federal departments and agencies, government decisions on policies, programs, and legislation will better reflect the needs of all Canadians. For example, GBA was recently applied to the government's social infrastructure strategy and identified the particular needs of women and children, resulting in greater investments in shelters and transition housing. GBA Awareness Week also provides an opportunity for each of us as parliamentarians to advance gender equality by applying GBA to all of our work. My staff and I have completed GBA training so that we can better understand the needs of our constituents in Oakville, North Burlington, and all Canadians. I challenge all MPs and their staff to do the same.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Loire. Mr. Speaker, at the latest Congress of the ACFAS, the results of a survey on sexuality, security, and on-campus interactions were released. Researchers found that 1 in 3 students had experienced sexual violence at university. The typical scenario is a young undergraduate female being assaulted by a male student without reporting the incident to the appropriate authorities out of fear and shame. It's deeply upsetting that we're still seeing this in 2016. There have been lots of campaigns in recent years. For example, in Quebec, there's the University of Montreal's Without a Yes, It's a No campaign launched in March. Across Canada, the Canadian Federation of Students has a No Means No campaign. We have to do more. In Parliament, we adopted a plan on violence against women. We need to do something, and it starts with us setting an example here in the House by doing a better job. We need to do a better job of combating sexism and harassment in our society. Thank you.
Lake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the legendary leader of the Crimean Tatars and Ukrainian MP, Mustafa Jamilov, is in Ottawa today to commemorate the 72nd anniversary of the forced deportation of Indigenous Tatars from the Crimean Peninsula by Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. More than 230,000 people were deported in 1944. 100,000 died. Now history is repeating itself. Since the illegal occupation and annexation of Crimea by Russia, President Putin's thugs are targeting Tatars again. These corrupt Russian officials are abusing the rights of Tatars in Crimea. First, they attacked their freedom of religion and closed their mosques. Then they attacked their freedom of press by shutting down their media. Next, the Kremlin closed the Tatars' legislature, the Mejlis, taking away their freedom of assembly. The Tatars are now labeled enemies of the state. Mr. Jamilov has again been forced into exile and his son in prison. Whether it takes 5 months or 50 years, Canada will always recognize Crimea as Ukrainian territory. Russia must get out of Ukraine.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, today is the 213th anniversary of the creation of the flag of the Republic of Haiti, my country of origin. There are almost 150,000 Canadians of Haitian origin. I'm proud to highlight the considerable and diversified contribution we have made in fields like health, education, justice, transportation, sports, and increasingly in politics. Mr. Speaker, the next generation is on its way. Our young people are full of energy and ideas, and they are an extension of our presence here in Canada. I salute His Excellency the Ambassador of Haiti in Canada, Mr. Franz Litaud. Happy anniversary of the flag.
Questions orales. Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, now we know what the Prime Minister really thinks about democracy. During the election, he said, and I quote, "We will not resort to legislative tricks to avoid scrutiny." Now, without any justification, he has changed the rules to eliminate accountability and take power away from the opposition parties. Instead of a government in opposition, he just wants a government and an audience. How can the Prime Minister justify such a lack of respect for Parliament?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, we have tremendous respect for Parliament. That's why we're proposing to extend sitting hours to allow members of Parliament to contribute thoughtful, responsible interjections on a broad range of topics. We made the commitment to Canadians that we would make this government work for them, that we would put forward the kinds of issues that mattered to them, that they voted for in the election, and that's exactly what we are doing. We're putting forward an agenda that they have asked us to deliver on, and we're inviting all members in this House to speak at length and share their perspectives on all the legislation.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we knew that he admired the basic Chinese dictatorship, but we didn't think he'd actually emulate it. train.
This week, we're discovering the real nature of the Prime Minister. He's treating this as a farce. Instead of having a government and an opposition, the government have created a government and an audience. How can the Prime Minister, to justify his lack of respect, how can he justify his lack of respect for Parliament? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister.
Done.
Mr. Speaker, we were elected on a platform, an ambitious platform for Canadians, filled with change to deliver the solemn commitments that we made. The reality is we're offering the opposition more time to share their views, to share their perspectives, and we believe in the robust commitment that must be shown here, and Canadians expect this government to deliver on the promises that we were elected to deliver. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, speaking of a lack of respect, he's also intent on changing the rules of democracy without giving every Canadian a say. Right. Mr. Speaker, this House belongs to Canadians, and when you change the rules of democracy, every Canadian should have a say. It's obvious to Canadians that the only way that this process will be transparent and open is if we have a referendum. So why isn't it obvious to the Prime Minister?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I'm always bemused to hear the members opposite talk about how important it is to engage and consult Canadians when they brought in the Unfair Elections Act, ramming it through to help them try and get re-elected. The fact of the matter is we committed to making this past election the last one in this country under first past the post. We committed to consult broadly with Canadians and pay particular attention to minority groups and underrepresented groups that would be allowed to weigh in on how to make our electoral system and indeed our governance better, and that's exactly what we are going to do.
Saint-Jean. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. The Prime Minister campaigned, and what did he say? We will not resort to legislative tricks. Well, they failed, Mr. Speaker, because they aren't respecting what they said during the campaign. There is a strong opposition, and we're going to continue putting questions. They said they wanted to give more power to elected officials, but he's muzzling them. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians why he's doing the opposite of what he campaigned on? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, I think that Canadians who are listening to this exchange are quite perplexed because what they see is that we're giving the opposition more opportunities to share their views, to participate in debate, to make speeches, more opportunities for members of all parties to share their opinions in this House, because Canadians expect us to deliver on the ambitious promises that we made, and that is exactly what they expect us to do. Come on. Well, member for Outremont. Now, they're saying that they wanted to consult, but they need to make some choices. If they consult Canadians, they have to listen to them and take into account what they're saying. Now, Mr. Speaker, from now on, this Prime Minister, through his choices and lack of respect from the House, will he at least face Canadians and give them an opportunity to vote on a referendum on their future? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, 60% of Canadians voted in favour of a party that committed to changing the electoral system. Canadians spoke out very clearly. They wanted the last election to be the last under the form that was used, and we are committed to consulting Canadians, to listen to Canadians, to talk about the kind of democracy and process that they want, to have better governance, and that is exactly what we're going to do. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Mr. Speaker, even the Conservatives on their worst days never tried to stifle democracy the way the Liberals are doing it today. And on the very important issue of physician-assisted dying, after Liberals shut down debate, the Alberta Court of Appeal has now declared that the government is contradicting the Supreme Court's ruling. This is exactly as most experts had predicted. With this new court ruling, will the Prime Minister either refer this bill to the Supreme Court or make the necessary changes to make it constitutional?
Honourable Prime Minister.
First off, Mr. Speaker. It amazes me that the member opposite could think that offering more opportunities for the members opposite to weigh in and to give speeches in this House would somehow count as limiting democracy. And secondly, on the issue of medical assistance in dying, we understand that this is a big step for Canada. We are creating a responsible regime that will allow us to move forward in a thoughtful way that defends Canadians' rights and freedoms while protecting the most vulnerable. That's what Canadians expect us to do. That's exactly what we are doing.
Member for Outremont. What betrayal of their promise and what arrogance. They're attacking the fundamental basis of Canada's democracy, Mr. Speaker. After having promised real discussion on medical assistance in dying, the government is stifling debate. The Alberta Court of Appeal has just stated that the government's proposal runs counter to the Constitution. It's unconstitutional. How can the Prime Minister explain that broken promise to people who need the legislation? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, what the Court of Appeal in Alberta underscored is that we need to have a legislative framework to enable citizens seeking medical assistance in dying to obtain it safely and to know that action won't be taken against physicians. We need a legislative framework. We are taking a big step as a society with this legislation, and it must be taken in a responsible manner. That is precisely what we're doing. The Honourable Member for Outremont. What's increasingly clear is that he doesn't understand anything about this file, Mr. Speaker. We can't count the number of broken promises made on the other side of the House. Now, with Mr. Jackhammer Denis Coderre, the Prime Minister committed to restoring home mail delivery. Now he wants to create a committee. Canadians and Quebecers during the campaign spoke out. They want home mail delivery restored. Why is the Prime Minister breaking this promise as well? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, to be transparent, we always talked about our platform, and it's still available on the website at liberal.ca. He can look at it and see that we have committed to ensuring that Canadians receive the services they need at a reasonable price for Canadians. We committed to doing what the previous government didn't do. We are consulting Canadians. We're talking about mayors. We're talking to mayors, rather. We're talking about delivering the best service possible expected by Canadians as regards Canada Post.
Video of him promising to restore door-to-door mail delivery September 3rd. That's online as well, Mr. Speaker. After campaigning on a black and white promise to end the Conservative court case against veterans, the Liberals are now taking veterans back to court with the same lawyers and the same arguments to try to block them from getting the benefits they deserve and that the Liberals promised. It's disgusting. The reaction from veterans, quote, it's a betrayal, and quote, they have turned the Liberal election campaign into a lie. Will the Prime Minister show a shred of decency and stop taking our veterans to court?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Veterans who've served this country extraordinarily well deserve more than people trying to play politics on their backs. Veterans across this country know that in Budget 2016 we put forward historic measures that will fix the 10 years of neglect.
Order. There are going to be strong statements on both sides, and most members are able to listen to those strong statements without reacting. Let's please also all do so. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has a few seconds left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 10 years of neglect by the government opposite left us an awful lot to do to make things right for veterans. And that's why I'm so proud of our Minister for Veterans Affairs, who's been working with them, listening and putting forward concrete measures to reopen closed offices and offer them more support. And we, of course, are looking forward to continuing to work with veterans and advocacy groups across this country to deliver.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
On that issue, Mr. Speaker, it's not about delivering something more. It's about not doing something, not taking veterans to court. But You know, the Prime Minister was a little embarrassed on Monday because 25% of his caucus was caught taking the day off. He promised to make Parliament more independent by empowering individual MPs and opposition parties. Now his pride has got the best of him, and he's planning on suppressing every rule that he doesn't like. Everything the Prime Minister ever said about respecting Parliament was obviously a sham. This is simply a vindictive act of spiteful retribution. By suppressing the rules of our House of Commons, isn't the Prime Minister showing a clear disdain for Parliament and contradicting everything he said during the campaign?
Mr. Speaker, my friend across the aisle knows very well that what we're seeking to do, in fact, is to allow more members of Parliament to speak, to ensure that important government legislation can have a full and complete debate in this House. And, Mr. Speaker, that's why we were disappointed when yesterday I proposed exactly the same wording that my friend in front had proposed to extend the hours of the debate on government legislation. And what a surprise, Mr. Speaker, it was turned down.
For Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, during the campaign, the Prime Minister said he wanted Parliament to hold the government to account. Well, we did, and his response is nothing short of tyrannical. Now that the opposition has become an inconvenience to the Prime Minister, he's lost his temper. This isn't about giving members of Parliament more time to debate. This is about taking away the tools that exist for the opposition to hold the government to account. If this is how the Prime Minister reacts to when the House of Commons holds him to account, how can we trust him to manage the changes to the democratic electoral system this summer?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, again, it's a bit ironic that a Conservative member would talk about government being accountable to Parliament. One of the tools that my friend maybe is upset that we will temporarily suspend would be his ability to get up in the middle of the day and try and adjourn the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, we're here to work, and in no other workplace, Mr. Speaker.
Order. It won't surprise members are having trouble hearing the answer. And we're going to have to hear the answer, whether we like it or not, and the questions, whether we like them or not. So the Honourable Government House Leader has a few more seconds.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. In no other workplace is it acceptable to arrive at work and pull the fire alarm and make all your colleagues cancel their meetings and committees. Today alone, Mr. Speaker, over 20 witnesses will be disrupted at committees.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Minister responsible for election reform repeats over and over that 6 months will be enough to study the various models for reform, thanks to the new means of communication from the 21st century. Apart from referring to Twitter, she hasn't given any additional information on what means will be used. Mr. Speaker, the Minister is accusing us of talking about referendums, just about referendums. I'm giving her an opportunity now to explain how she plans to consult Canadians and what means would she proposes to use it would be better than a referendum.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to begin by acknowledging what a great honor to be in this House today, especially. And I recognize that electoral reform, democratic reform overall, will not be easy. It's never been easy. It requires the collective will of every single member of this House to come to the table and work together to ensure that the voices of those in their communities who are often unheard and ignored are included in this conversation. My challenge to the member opposite is to come to the table with constructive and effective conversations that can allow us to meet our mutual goal.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, there we can see that the Minister didn't answer the question that I put to her. Mr. Speaker, for the Minister, the referendum isn't a good means of consultation. So let's do some simple math here. Let's take the number of registered voters in Canada, 26 million. Let's look at the hypothesis that say only 50% of Canadian voters vote in a referendum on the issue. That leaves us with 13 million. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister tell us if she really thinks that a parliamentary committee will be in a position to consult more than 13 million Canadians in less than 6 months?
Democratic institutions.
Mr. Mr. Speaker, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions over the past week in this House, it is not just up to the committee to do this work. It is up to all of us in this House to do this work. My parliamentary secretary and I will be announcing further methods of outreach in the days and weeks to come. However, Mr. Speaker, if there is no collective will by all members of this House, we will not do this process the justice it deserves. Let's work together to serve the best interests of Canadians and not our political parties.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has set up a special committee without consulting the opposition, is using his artificial majority of seats that he himself says is in fact illegitimate in order to ram through a system that only benefits Liberals, and he refuses to consult Canadians in a referendum. Mr. Speaker, the Canadians should have the final say on this matter. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and agree to hold a referendum?
Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, democracy is more than just about voting. It's about working together to ensure that every voice and every perspective is engaged and included in governance. In the past, the Progressive Conservative Party extended the right to vote to women and Indigenous persons. The party did not hold a referendum. It came to Parliament and they collectively worked together to do the right thing. Let's do the right thing, Mr. Speaker. Let's work together and modernize our electoral system.
Mr. Speaker, 2/3 of Canadians would like us to have a referendum with regards to this issue. The Minister of Democratic Reform does not understand that the voice of millions of Canadians in a referendum is far better than the hundreds that a committee might be able to hear. She has claimed countless times that she would like to, open quote, put the interests of Canadians ahead of party interests, end quote. I would encourage her then to live up to her words of commitment and to put Canadians first. Why won't the Liberals let Canadians have the final say by holding a national referendum?
Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, democratic reform requires leadership. Leadership to engage and to consult Canadians, but also leadership to act and do the right thing. When this right was extended to women and to Indigenous persons without restrictions, this House did so by demonstrating true leadership. Let's do that again, Mr. Speaker. Let's work together to ensure that the voices of those who don't traditionally get an opportunity to be included in this process are included this time.
The honourable member for Rosemont, La Petite Patrie. It's rare to have an opportunity to have a real discussion on our election system. We have a historic opportunity to put an end to an archaic system that creates false majorities like the one obtained by the Liberals in the last election. But with the parliamentary straitjacket put on us by the Liberals yesterday, it's difficult to see how they won't use their false majority to impose their will. Can the Liberals today ensure this House that they will do the only thing worthy of our democracy and proceed with the support of the opposition?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I've been seeking the support of the opposition since I began my mandate. We need to do this work together, but if the members opposite have already made up their mind and are not coming to the table with progressive and constructive options, then they cannot criticize us for not doing the work that we promised we would do to the Canadians who elected us.
Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, we have an historic opportunity to finally get rid of first past the post, but Canadians are growing increasingly worried and disappointed with this government. The minister claims that she wants to work together with opposition, then Liberals shoot down exactly every idea we give them. She claims she wants to be nonpartisan, then Liberals stack the deck on the committee choosing the new system. So let's have a clear answer to a clear question. Will the minister respect the millions of Canadians represented by the opposition and agree not to pass any changes to our Electoral Reform Act without the support of one of those parties? Yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, if working with other parties was not important to us, we would not have demonstrated the leadership that we did when we ensured that the two unrecognized parties in this House, the Bloc Québécois and the Green, would be included in this important conversation. I am looking forward to my meetings with all my critics, and I hope that this is an issue that we can work together and ensure that Canada displays and continues to display the leadership it needs to on the agenda of democratic reform.
For Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bizarre spectacle yesterday of the minister arguing that referendums are non-inclusive shows that she has no idea how they work. A referendum will not and does not replace the minister's ultra-inclusive, super-de-duper consultation process, which has been received with such accolades in the media over the last few days. Rather, a referendum is a final step. It's the one in which Canadians get to say yes or no to what came before, including finding out whether or not the government's going to pay any attention at all to what took place in their consultation process. Why, therefore, will she not hold a referendum?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while I would appreciate a different tone from the member opposite, I don't expect it. That said, the people of this country, those in the pockets who don't normally get engaged in this conversation, those who face barriers above and beyond what members opposite can even comprehend, they deserve to be included in this conversation. So I urge the member opposite to come to the table with constructive feedback on how we can work together to ensure that so that those voices are heard.
Member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about inclusiveness. You have a parliamentary committee meets with, say, 1,000 people over the next 6 months, which would be quite an accomplishment, inclusive. Then, as the minister says, it goes off to the cabinet for a final decision, not inclusive. Then, if she takes the advice that we're giving her, you go to 35 million Canadians for ratification or rejection. That is inclusive. Why is the minister opposed to inclusiveness? Why does she think that only her cabinet colleagues get to decide whether or not we get it?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to remind all members of this House that the final decision on what reforms we bring forward will be the decision of all 338 members of this House, and to believe otherwise is undemocratic.
Member for Calgary-Mindapore.
Mr. Speaker, the minister just said that the electoral reform stacked process she's recommending is designed to serve the best interests of Canadians and not our political parties. But let's be clear. They want a Liberal majority controlling a committee to opt for the preferred Liberal system, to be approved by the Liberal cabinet, to be adopted by the Liberal majority in this House, notwithstanding any dissent, including from 35 million Canadians. Nothing could be clearer. They are trying to rig the system by and for the Liberal Party. Why not allow Canadians to protect the legitimacy of our elections through a referendum?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while taking advantage of their majority may have been the norm within the former government, that is not the culture within our government.
Member for Calgary-Mindapore.
Mr. Speaker, so it is not the Liberal culture to respect the majority of Canadians on the precise question of how they elect their representatives to their parliament. This place does not belong to the Liberal Party, and the very question of legitimacy is at stake here, Mr. Speaker. It's absolutely clear. If the Liberals thought they could get a majority of Canadians to endorse their rigged system, they would hold a referendum. Absolutely. Is it not true? The only reason they refuse to do so is because they know Canadians would veto the Liberal rigged electoral system.
The Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, this time last week, we took the first step. We delivered on a promise that we made to Canadians to bring together an all-party committee to review various options to study electoral reform and consider the possibility of online voting and mandatory voting. Mr. Speaker, that was the first step. That step and every other step from here on requires the collective will and leadership displayed by every member of this House. We need to display that leadership because the people who put us here are counting on it.
The Honourable Member for Laurier, Ste. Marie. Mr. Speaker, we learned today that journalists were spied on without authorization by the RCMP. We need an inquiry into this. Meanwhile, the Liberals have still, despite their promises, done nothing to fix Bill C-51, which in any event they voted for. C-51 is a freedom-killing law that gives unprecedented powers with no accountability to our intelligence services. When will the minister keep his promise and protect our civil liberties? Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, freedom of the press is a fundamental Canadian value that's enshrined in the Charter. The unauthorized surveillance was entirely unacceptable. It was contrary to a ministerial directive. It was contrary to RCMP policy, and it was stopped when RCMP headquarters became aware of it, and the investigators have been reprimanded.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt, Saanich Sud.
After voting in favour of C-51, the Conservatives' dangerous and ineffective spy bill, the Liberals changed their tune during the election when they promised to repeal problematic elements of the draconian bill, quote, without delay. But 7 months later, the minister has accomplished nothing. Meanwhile, we have reports of unauthorized spying on journalists by the RCMP, and Canadians are increasingly worried about their civil liberties. Why are the Liberals breaking their promise on C-51 and leaving Canadian civil liberties at risk?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the plan with respect to C-51 was laid out very clearly on our election platform. Step one in respect of that will be taken, hopefully before this Parliament rises for the summer, and that is the presentation of legislation having to do with a new overview mechanism involving a committee of parliamentarians. Step number two was in the budget, Mr. Speaker. That was the creation of a new office on counter-radicalization, and we will be conducting major national consultations with Canadians to determine what further they want to see happen.
For Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, during the campaign, many of our commitments were focused to better help Canadian families. Measures such as the Canada Child Benefit and added flexibility for parental leave will help improve the situation of many Canadian families. However, another popular commitment was in regards to flexible work. Can the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Labour update this House on the government's commitment to flexible work?
Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member from Surrey Centre for the question. Flex work is good for families, for workers, and for businesses. We know from other countries who have implemented a modern flex time system, like the UK, that it results in a greater employee loyalty, innovation, satisfaction, and higher sales. At the same time, it also improves the work-life balance for working Canadians. I encourage everyone to participate in sharing their views on a modern flex-time work system for
Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, now the cat's out of the bag, of course. The foreign minister caved into the Putin regime in exchange for a seat at the International Syria Support Group table this week. It's clear that the minister broke a Liberal campaign promise to implement the Magnitsky Act in order to secure an invite from his new friend Putin. But members of the Liberal caucus support the Magnitsky Act. Our allies support the Act. So why is the minister turning his back on his colleagues and allies and instead embracing Putin and his thugs?
Mr. Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the honourable member for the opportunity to profile the promise we made to restore Canada's place on the international stage. Canadians are proud that Canada is participating in Syrian peace talks. After 10 years, we are being asked for our advice and our involvement. Engagement is giving Canada a place and a voice at the table. Our participation means that we're better placed to help restore peace and provide crucial humanitarian aid As well, we call on all parties to return to UN-led intra-Syrian peace talks. Thank you very much.
A member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what's the point of being sought our advice when we are turning away from Canada's values and Canada's interests? Mr. Speaker, instead of implementing the Magnitsky Act, as promised, the Foreign Minister is now musing vaguely about making changes to Canada's Special Economic Measures Act. Another Liberal weak-kneed response, another broken promise. What this amounts to is the Foreign Minister tiptoeing around Vladimir Putin. Why is the minister shying away from the Magnitsky Act when our allies around the world have already signed on? When will he stand up to Putin and enact this legislation?
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's quite clear that the former Conservative government did nothing to address concretely the Magnitsky case. There are two aspects here, and it's important to understand Canadian legislation. Firstly, we already have the ability to ban individuals involved in the Magnitsky murder from entering Canada under our Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. And secondly, with regard to sanctions, the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development has been tasked with reviewing the Special Economic Measures Act. That's where our sanctions take place, and we all look forward to their report. Thank you very much.
Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the fact that the Foreign Affairs Minister is willing to trade appeasement with Russia for a membership in the International Syria Support Group and turn a blind eye to human rights abusers is appalling, to say the least. Innocent victims like Sergei Medinsky are routinely subject to unjustified arrest, torture, and murder at the hands of corrupt officials. Will the Prime Minister follow through on the Liberal campaign promise and support the Magnitsky bill?
Now the Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the attention that is being paid to the Magnitsky case. It's a horrendous, horrendous situation, and we obviously condemn Russia's human rights record. But I would like to say that our policy of engagement is allowing us to speak more clearly and more broadly to the world about our role and our constructive contribution to holding Russia and its deplorable human rights record to account. Thank you.
Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, finally the government has announced their replacement to the Office of Religious Freedom, but their proposal sounds more like something out of the British comedy Yes, Minister. It is quite simply an office of everything. In spite of lofty ideas, it's not clear at all what the functions of this office will be on a day-to-day basis. Now, the government could take some concrete action on international human rights by restoring funding to projects on the ground, which the previous office was already successfully operating. So why create an office of everything that will accomplish nothing?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we are proud to announce the Office of Human Rights, Freedoms and Inclusion, which reflects our ongoing commitment to advancing human rights at home and abroad. It's a comprehensive vision that includes all human rights, of course, including religion. And I would like to assure the House that the expanded office builds on the work of the previous office. For example, the External Advisory Committee on Religious Freedom will stay. To support our enhanced approach, we are significantly increasing the budget. The Office of Human Rights, Freedoms and Inclusion reflects the fact that human rights are universal, they are indivisible, and they are interdependent.
Member for London Fanshawe.
Another day, another broken Liberal promise. Liberals are dragging veterans, wounded veterans, back into court to deny them fair benefits. After Conservatives spent $700,000 fighting our veterans, Liberals are taking another cruel hit at them.
Shame.
Veterans have earned our respect. They deserve the benefits they're owed. This is a disgrace. It is shameful. The Liberals must recognize Canada's moral, social, legal, and financial covenant with veterans. Why are they breaking their promises and turning their back on our veterans?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
We acknowledge the significant contributions of veterans and Canadian Armed Force members have made and continue to make in protecting peace and security for all Canadians. I was given a mandate to re-establish lifelong pensions as an option for veterans and remain committed to this, and to all items in my mandate letter. Veteran stakeholders have asked us to get this right, not rushed. As this matter is currently before the courts, it would be inappropriate for me to comment further.
For Port Moody, Coquitlam.
Shameful. The Liberals are betraying our country and betraying our veterans.
Mr. Speaker, during the campaign election, the Liberals promised to restore environmental protections to the Fisheries Act. It's even in the minister's mandate letter. Over 35 environmental organizations have called on the government to immediately reinstate previous habitat protections in the Fisheries Act. It's time for the minister to act. When will the minister make good on this commitment and restore the fish habitat protections?
Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and Coast Guard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the member knows, and we agree, the Fisheries Act is an essential tool to support conservation and protection of fish and fish habitat and the sustainability of fisheries. I take very seriously, Mr. Speaker, my mandate to restore the lost protections of the Fisheries Act and look forward to consulting with scientists, environmentalists, Indigenous people in finding the best path forward to safeguard our oceans and waterways. We are currently looking at options to move forward, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the member and everyone that we will do it and we will do it right. Thank you.
For Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the Justice Minister has allowed a truce in the Equitas veteran lawsuit to fall apart, and her lawyers are back attacking veterans in court. The Prime Minister promised to uphold the sacred obligation our country owes to our veterans, yet his Justice Minister has turned her lawyers on veterans. Will the Justice Minister denounce these tactics and treat our veterans with care, compassion, and respect?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well, I thank the member for his question, and as stated earlier, we remain committed to treating veterans with care, compassion, and respect by implementing the mandate letter as given to me by our Prime Minister. Budget 2016 delivered on a lot of those items, including financial security for many of our most disabled veterans. We will continue to work through our mandate items and deliver for veterans and their families going forward. This will be a new day for veterans, and our government is following through for them.
Honourable Member for Bhopal, Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, we've learned from the news that the Equitas court case, where a group of veterans is fighting the Canadian government, is back on. The Conservative government had secured an agreement in this dispute after many broken election promises, such as returning the lifetime disability pension. The minister is now leading the government into a fight to reduce veterans' rights. Mr. Speaker, how can the minister explain this affront?
Veterans Affairs.
Well, let's be clear. The last 10 years under the Conservative government were nothing but a sham in terms of treating veterans with care, compassion, and respect. We have delivered on this extensively in Budget 216, moving on financial security for our most disabled veterans, for expanding the Career Impact Allowance and the Disability Award. We remain committed to our mandate letter. We will be returning to the table to ensure that veterans and their families are treated with care, compassion, and respect, and in a better fashion they were under the former government.
Honourable Member for Bhopal, Limoilou.
Speaker, the Minister of Veteran Affairs appears two-faced in regard to the Veterans Affairs files. The Minister is now siding with the Department of Justice, who now choose to prevent veterans from obtaining benefits that the Minister and his party had promised during the last election. Mr. Speaker, does the Minister of Veteran Affairs no longer believe that the government has a sacred obligation to veterans?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well, I'm not certain if my critic has been paying attention to what this government has done, so I'll remind him. In Budget 2016, we delivered significantly for veterans and their families. We delivered on extending earning loss benefit from 75% to 90% of a pre-release salary. We expanded the Career Impact Allowance. We retroactively paid the Disability Award. We're opening the 9 offices that his government closed and restoring staff to the front line. We're doing things better. You should applaud us for what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Brampton East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, everyone loves space, and space exploration is a source of inspiration, but also a rich source for research and innovation. Investments we make to deepen our research work in space increases our innovation capabilities. It also captures the minds of young people and promotes their interest in science and technology. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development please update this House on the progress of the Canadian Space Agency and the next steps of human space travel?
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Brampton East for his question and his tireless work and commitment to helping out our Canadian youth. We're proud of the $379 million commitment in Budget 2016 to support the Canadian Space Agency. And that is why I was honored to announce that David St. Jacques will be the next Canadian astronaut to go aboard the International Space Station.
Few seconds left.
See, this is a proud moment for all Canadians, Mr. Speaker. This is an exciting new chapter for space and, of course, for the next generation of Canadians.
Our member for Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, a few decades ago, over 200,000 Sikhs lived in Afghanistan. That number has dwindled to less than 2,000 today. Afghani Sikhs continue to encounter social discrimination and physical intimidation, and now remain stuck in the surrounding countries. Mr. Speaker, why have the Liberals expressed an attitude of indifference toward the plight of Afghani Sikhs and failed to resell them to Canada under Section 13? Thank you.
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question, and I certainly don't think he's suggesting we've displayed an indifference towards refugees in general. That has been one of our major commitments, and we are not. We are also highly aware of the situation of refugees in other countries, including the Sikhs in Afghanistan, and I can assure the honourable member that this is one of the areas in which we are looking into with great interest and attention.
The honourable member for Longueuil Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, it took the NDP pushing the CBC board to the wall to get some answers out of it. And you know what? They're acting like a papal conclave in there. I even think I saw a puff of white smoke. So since we've learned that they have 6 secret plans for selling the Montreal headquarters, but we don't know what they are because they're secret. A board of Conservative partisans meeting in secret to make secret decisions, like the minister said yesterday, that's a problem. And she promised that all board documents would be made public. So a simple question, does she commit, yes or no, to making all of the sale plans public? Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honour to say that our public broadcaster is finally focused on the future. Radio-Canada has 2 projects on its website right now that explain the historic and social responsibility of the federal government to the neighbourhood. And now I expect that CBC Radio-Canada will follow the next steps of a transparent process and be in constant discussion with stakeholders, would that be unions, employees, or the neighbourhood. And I would like to remind the House that Radio-Canada is independent, and it's up to CBC Radio-Canada to demonstrate that their chosen projects are good. The honourable member for Thérèse de Blainville. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the world population is affected by epidemics like the Zika virus, Canada does what it must do to protect its citizens and to support foreign efforts to fight the epidemic. While the Zika virus risk in Canada is very low, we must be vigilant and prepared. Can the Minister of Health please inform the House of what Canada is doing to fight the Zika virus here and internationally? The Honourable Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague from Thérèse de Blainville for his question. We are taking every necessary measure to protect Canadians from this infectious disease. Last week, the Minister of International Development and myself had the pleasure of announcing that Canada will invest $5 million into the fight against the Zika virus. This money will be used for more research, for better testing, and for increased prevention of transmission through better control of mosquitoes and through better humanitarian funding.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have shown strong support to resettle thousands of refugees from Syria to Canada. Unfortunately, it seems like the number of Syrian refugees is more important than the care they receive. Organizations and churches had raised up to $70,000 to privately sponsor a refugee family who were told they would arrive in February. Well, here we are, Mr. Speaker, 3 months later, and nothing. Nothing in 3 months. When will the minister make good on these promises and unite these refugees with their sponsors?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I am proud as a Canadian of the overwhelmingly positive welcome Canadians have afforded to the Syrian refugees. The downside is, to be frank, the welcome has been so enormous that my department has not been able to keep up with the number of refugees generous Canadians have been demanding. So we have taken measures to guarantee that all those who applied by the end of March of this year, the refugees will be here by the end of this year or early next year. But Canadians have been overwhelmingly...
Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister, and I want to start by quoting this from yesterday's unanimous decision from the Alberta Court of Appeal. Quote, "The declaration of invalidity on Carter does not require that the applicant be terminally ill. The decision itself is clear. No words in it suggest otherwise. The interpretation urged on us by the Government of Canada is not sustainable. In light of this, would the government be willing to entertain the amendments now before this place at report stage to ensure that C-14 is compliant with the Charter?"
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for her question. One of the things that comes out of that Alberta decision was indeed the need for a proper framework whereby requests for medical assistance in dying can be evaluated. And that's why in the bill we put forward, there is a strong framework for consultation of physicians and participation in that. In regards to amendments, they've already been studied at committee, and we have made our determinations around those. Yes.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of His Excellency Martin Schulz, President of the European Parliament. I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Christy Clark, Premier of British Columbia. Almost said New Brunswick. Almost said New Brunswick, pardon me. Brian Gallant wouldn't like that, neither would she. Tabling of documents. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. The Right Honourable the Prime Minister.
Speaker, I would like to begin by acknowledging the hard work done by many of my colleagues that has brought us to this historic moment here today. From my own caucus, I thank the members from Surrey Newton and Winnipeg North for their tireless advocacy. They have petitioned the Canadian government for years to make the apology that we will make today. I thank them for their commitment to this cause. From the opposition benches, special mention must be made of the members from Calgary Heritage, Calgary Midnapore, and the former member for Surrey North. Each deserves recognition for the work they have done to seek resolution for victims and their families.